no clear barrier between magic and science. It's not all about living in a box. It's about allowing some magic into everyday life. And I like the idea of that. The perspectives you get from travel, spending time with people in different cultures, different destinations, that's what matters to me. That's what I believe is valuable. And I think I'd rather be rich on perspectives than anything else.
That was a little sneak peek of a wonderful conversation you're going to hear today with Torunn Tronsvang. She is the founder of Up Norway. You can check them out at upnorway.com. They're a tour company that curates bespoke, authentic experiences and epic adventures in Norway for travelers all over the world. So she's a real expert on this country. Of course, she is Norwegian. She grew up here. So I get to talk to her about some of these Norwegian concepts that I have come to embrace in my own life as a new citizen of Norway. But also, I wanted to get under the skin of some of those concepts a bit because I wanted you and myself to learn about them from a Norwegian. And some of these concepts have become a big part of my life. And perhaps after this show, I don't know, maybe you'll steal a few and implement them in yours. We'll have to see. She's also going to share her 7 hidden gems, some of her favorites. And what I love about her company that makes it different is the majority of travel companies here where I live in Norway, they take people to the same places. I know because I've been to those places. They're packed with tourists and they can be iconic and amazing, but also a bit crowded. So it's nice to learn about some of the more beautiful places that you can see that aren't as crowded. And as a new citizen of Norway, I'm proud of what we have here. I want you to come visit. I want you to see some of the beautiful places here that most people don't see. Most people don't visit. So you'll discover some of those here through the show today. She also talks about her experience living in Bhutan and how that came about, which is a crazy story. We get into the power of setting intentions, magic in life, and much more. It's all happening right now. You ready to get into it? Let's do it. Buckle up, strap in. Thanks for being here, and welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, this is Jason with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience, as we continue our destination-themed month. And speaking of that, what destinations do you want me to cover? What places do you want to learn more about? You can get in touch. Jason at ZeroToTravel.com is my email. You can also drop me a voicemail. The link is in all of the show notes. Would love to hear from you. I'm excited to share some of the spots that come up in this conversation today that Torunn shares. Some very unique places in Norway that I hadn't heard about that I'm excited to visit now. And I hope you get excited to visit as well. Have a big announcement on the back end of the show, as well as a quote I'll leave you with. So stick around if you'd like to hear that. Now, here's my conversation with Torunn from upnorway.com. Please enjoy.
Der han sjøl hever tuftene grave, og sett sjøl sine hus oppå deim. Han så ut på de steinute strender.
Always a pleasure to do these things live. Where are we?
We are at Spaces Tullinløkka, which is Norway's most impressive circular building, built using more than 80% reusable material.
Is that right?
That's right.
Really?
Yes.
Well, it's funny you say that because, well, this is part of your job, right? You're supposed to know things about things in Norway, right? This is like,
that's right.
I just expected sort of the stock answer. Oh, we're in a co-working space. And like, no, that's cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
And this is the Up Norway office.
It
right?
is.
But
it's the happening place in the city at the moment. So we have August-kvartalet right next to us, where Espen Holmbobang, the chef of Norway's Michelin-starred restaurant, 3 Michelin stars, Maemo, has now established a few other places to eat. So this is it.
Well, Are we going there after this?
Your treat, right?
Yeah. If you haven't been able to tell, we're actually doing this in person, which is very nice. And I got introduced to you through Gunnar Garfors, a personal friend and a friend of the show who you may have heard before. And I have to officially say, Torunn Tronsvang, welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast.
Thank you so much.
How was my pronunciation there?
It's good, pretty good.
I have a dream to conduct an interview in Norwegian, but this is an English podcast, so I shouldn't do that. But maybe one day,
next time,
you can be my first one, and then that way you can correct all of my grammatical errors.
We're quite good at that, actually. Our PT is German, and we force him to speak with us in Norwegian.
Nice. Well, what part of Norway did you grow up in? I'm excited to get to know you because, your company is doing some incredible things. And you guys have these trips that are taking people to the less trodden places, let us say. So we're going to get into all that because you're going to share some of your hidden gems. But I do want to learn a little bit more about your story.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I should start with where I'm from?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm from a little place called Kongsvinger, which is just northeast of where we are now, closer to the Swedish border. It's not known for very many things, but over the last year, we've had a really, really cool attraction that has opened, which is The Plus. The Plus is set out to be the world's most environmentally friendly furniture factory built in the forests outside of Kongsvinger, Magnor. And it is a leading example of how the industrial world should follow and create factories and produce in a way that things new and things modern for the benefit of the world rather than just destroying all our natural resources. So this has also become a really, really cool visitor attraction. Yeah,
it sounds like the anti-IKEA in some ways, not to drop brand here, but
yeah, we like IKEA, but this is truly something worth visiting, not just if you're a business owner and want inspiration, but also if you're a person living in the world today who want inspiration.
What does that look like? What does it look like to be a sustainable furniture builder? What do you see when you go to a place like that?
Well, this place in particular is formed like a plus sign. So they have basically, it's as if you've lifted this big factory down into the forest and there's trees all around, there's art in the forest and everything is like a big showroom, big windows so you can see everything what they do. And they've thought through all their processes. And what I really like is that they make durable products. So they have almost a lifetime guarantee. And if you need spare parts after 10 years, 20 years, you should still be able to get it. But their furniture is not just made thinking green, it's also made thinking social. So, when you're in airports and you want to lie down sometimes because you have hours to kill and sometimes you have like an arm handle in the way. Well, these furniture, they don't have that at all. It's all about social spaces. And sometimes when they're put up out in town, a lot of places in Oslo have them both inside and outside. It's all about inviting people to have conversations.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. This is a big passion of yours because I know you guys are a B corporation.
That's correct.
Why is that important to you?
It's about living this life in a way that is meaningful, not just for oneself, but also for people around us, I guess, to try to make the most of every day and to have fun while we do business and do it in a good way, built on good values. And I think B Corp, they really think new by trying to adhere to those standards. It's not about getting the certification only, but it's about building business in a way that benefits the people that work here, our guests, of course, our stakeholders, wherever and whoever they are, and also in a way that doesn't destroy, but more rebuild.
The Norwegian connection with nature is a powerful one, I would say. Although, I guess if you grow up in it, maybe it just seems more of a natural part of life than it does seem to be from an outside perspective, perhaps. What was it like growing up in that area for you?
I think growing up, we're like children in all parts of the world. You don't really think so much about the natural resources you have around you. And when your parents force you to go out and go skiing or spend time outside, sometimes you don't want to. But I think we are taught up to be in nature, live in nature, manage ourselves in nature. And when we come to the age when we're old enough to appreciate that, we really do appreciate it. And we want to spend more time there and really value the time we have there. And I think Norway now has become a leader in those small wilderness retreats, wooden houses in the middle of the forests on stilts, built in trees, remote destinations, fjord views, lake views. And it's all a result of the fact that we do want to spend time in nature. Our cabins have always been there. Every sixth person in Norway has access to a cabin, but now it's still all about simple life. For some, it's about luxurious life. We build too many cabins, for sure. But for many, it's about finding those magical places outside where you can just re-energize from nature.
Yeah. You were in Bhutan.
Yeah, that's right.
For quite a while.
Yeah, almost 3 years.
Can you tell me about that experience?
Yes. Being in Bhutan was like living in a fairy tale. Everything that happens in a fairy tale happened in Bhutan. A lot of magic, no clear barrier between magic and science. I like that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
In what way?
If you go through history and you talk about scientific historical events, then in Bhutan, all of a sudden, someone flies on a tiger. And I like that. It makes life more interesting. And the fact that people are reincarnated, it gives life a longer perspective. And then one day I found myself retelling these stories that I've been told. And I was telling our guests about the reincarnated monk, who he was, the life he had lived before. And then the guest stopped and asked me, do you really believe in this? And I thought, I haven't even considered that. That's how it is here. And I like that it's not all about living in a box. It's about allowing some magic into everyday life. And I like the idea of that. And I miss that sometimes here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite different. Two different places.
Yeah. And in a way, it's wrong saying that, because what I have learned is that you create your own magic. And if you want magic, it's easy to create it yourself. So that's what we try to do in our journeys. We hook up with the best people we know around the country, some magical places, and then we try to create those moments, because it's there if you just look for it. And we forget that sometimes.
What were you doing in Bhutan?
In Bhutan? So in Bhutan, I was working for Aman Resorts, which is and has been always my favorite hotel company. I like the values that they represent. I like how they integrate in the local communities where they establish themselves. They don't always build new. They also use properties that are there from before. They use natural materials. We did a lot of community work. We engage people in work that have not worked before. And we try to work in a circular way where we built our own systems to handle garbage. We built our own systems to involve guests in the local communities. We tried to educate people when they were there. We delivered very specifically on the interests of those who came. We invested a lot in the locals in terms of education, on-the-job training. And it's generally just a good life. And I learned a lot as well as a leader, as someone who was a foreigner in a new country. And about, like, there's one story that I really remember where there was a friend of mine who told this story where one of his guests who he had brought to Bhutan had questioned a local, don't you, like, almost pitying him, feeling sorry for him for not having traveled outside of Bhutan because he didn't have the opportunity and didn't have a passport.
Yeah.
But then the Bhutanese had sent the question straight back at him, I'm here, I'm happy and I'm content. I don't need to travel anywhere. And still I'm happy. And then you, on the other hand, you're here, you've traveled all over the world searching for a happiness that you can't find. So who is living the better life? Is it you or me? And I like that. So they are really, really interesting people, and they've built their country and their leadership on different pillars than what we have in this modern world.
At that time, this was 2008, correct?
Yeah,
first time
that's
you
right.
went.
Yeah.
Was that something you were working towards, just having an experience outside of Norway for an extended period of time? Was that the first time you did that? Had you done it before?
No, I didn't travel much outside of Norway as a child because we could never afford that. So we used to have vacations within the Scandinavian countries. But when I had my confirmation, I wished for money and a suitcase. So I got money and a suitcase, bought my first ticket to Spain with my neighbor. And then the next trip after that was an exchange year as a Rotary student in Australia. And then I've traveled ever since, basically.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then when I was in Australia, there was a lady from my Rotary club. She took me to a sanctuary. And we saw these birds, cockatoos, parrots, all different colors. And I remember thinking that, oh my God, it never struck me that these birds that we put in cages actually live somewhere free. And I thought, and I said loud, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And that lady, her name was Julia, she looked at me and she said, well, if you think this is beautiful, you haven't been to Bhutan. And that's when I realized Bhutan was a country and this is where I have to go.
Really?
Yeah.
Just from that one conversation?
Yeah. So I got obsessed with Bhutan, and I studied every single detail of the culture, the religion, everything. And
Really?
And then Amman was actually the first international hotel company to establish themselves in Bhutan in 2004. So I just knew I wanted to go. So then I remember I was doing an exchange here because I studied for my bachelor in hospitality in Dubai.
Yeah.
I did an exchange here in Lausanne. And then we had a man, Ferdinand Woltenboer was his name, from Amman, who came to interview students. And everyone, they had their 15 minutes of fame. They got to say they wanted to work for Amman, blah, blah, blah. And everyone was quite general, open to take any job that they got offered from this company. But I was very specific. I said, I want to work as a lodge manager and I want to work in Bhutan. And then after that, 2 years, I think after that, I was hired.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by a brief exchange with somebody you meet traveling or whatever that can change somebody's life in such a profound way.
Yeah.
Just this comment, oh, well, you should check out Bhutan. You're like off and running. Well, it sounds like, kind of thinking about what you were talking about with magic and science and some of your beliefs in creating your own magic. Are you a believer in that idea of setting an intention like that? Like, hey, I want to go there. I want to work this, and now I'm going to work towards it and make it a reality type of thing. It gets woo-woo when people call it manifesting or whatever you want to call it. You can't just sit there and wait for things to happen. But is that a value in your life or something you think about?
Absolutely. And I've thought about it a lot lately because I think in my life, if we think about Bhutan and think about all the career choices and travel choices I've made, if they're related to my professional development, I've always set intentions and goals for my own professional development.
Yeah.
And I felt when I started Up Norway in 2016, I could use all the experience that I have accumulated in life in that business. But when I think about my personal life, I don't think I've been as good in setting intentions because I've thought that what happens in my personal life should just sort of happen. But now over the last couple of years or so, I'm thinking that's probably the wrong approach, that you're better off setting intentions both in your personal and professional life. So that's something that I'd like to get better at.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to think about it. When you think about personal life, what would some of those be for you?
Well, I think it could be related to love first and foremost, rather than sitting around waiting for the man of my life. You need to set an intention and try to think of, like, how do you want that part of your life to be? Like, I dream of, say, a few years from now, retiring to maybe my own little lodge in the mountain somewhere. And it's not going to happen if I don't start planning for it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's something I'd like to do and like to sort of approach in a more structured way, I think.
Yeah. Lifestyle goals.
Lifestyle goals. Yeah. yeah, I think I do it in some ways. Like, for example, last year, my colleague Henriette and we decided, or I convinced her to come with me and do a dancing class. So every Monday after work, we'd go and we'd dance. And the whole theme was learn to dance like Lady Gaga.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we had our PT in the morning every Tuesday. So when we got to work Tuesday morning, we'd already had one dancing class to start the week off. And then we had our strength exercise in the morning. And it's Tuesday, we're ready for work. And we've already had 2 sets of exercise for the week. And dancing makes you really happy.
Yeah.
So doing things like that, just don't sit around and wait for things to come or think about what you want and not do it. Just do it. We also did, Christian, my other colleague, we did a wine class, a VSET certification last year, which was also a lot of fun. So I think, think about what you want and then just do it.
I'm a little bit obsessed with that last Lady Gaga song, Hold My Hand. I haven't heard that one.
How
I'm not
does
going
it
to
go?
sing it.
Come
Oh,
on.
no, I'm not going to do that to the listeners, please. I kind of want to learn more about your time in Bhutan because the studying leading up to it and the immersion in the culture, I'm just wondering what else you took from that experience spiritually or energetically, if you want to go there, or we talk kind of about professionally, some of the development there, but what about some of the other aspects?
Oh, that's a big question. In Bhutan, I was introduced to people who have meant so much to me, both when I was there, but also later in my life. And I think, like what you were referring to earlier, sometimes it's those small conversations with people or like just a quote you read or what someone says that really gets you thinking. And I think with some of the people I met in Bhutan, I learned a lot, and I've taken that knowledge, that small piece of information with me and done trial and error, basically. And what have I learned? It's just maybe perceiving the world from a Bhutanese person's point of view has been really, really interesting because they live in a landlocked country with leadership that they really admire and value, how they manage with less, how when you don't have a TV, a radio, when you don't read the news every day, when you're not struck with information all the time, you don't long for things all the time. You're more content. You're more content with less. And that's something to think about. Like the more we have, the more we want, the more unhappy we are. So when we think about people in other parts of the modern world, it's as if we pity people who have less, but I don't think they're worse off than us in many parts of the world. I'm not saying everywhere, but many. And then what else? Like there's so many small life lessons learned from being in that country.
Anything that's come up recently?
I think of Bhutan every single day.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a transformative travel experience.
Absolutely.
If that's entering your daily life. Like that.
No, I had, there's one big dream I had when I went to Bhutan, and that was to hike the Snowman's Trek. And the Snowman's Trek is a 1-month trek across the Himalaya.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think it's 13 mountain passes that we pass along the way. And I remember doing that trek because I was able to do it by, we asked Amman guests to
13?
Yeah, we asked Amman guests to sponsor a yak. And then from the money we got from those sponsorships, we gathered clothing for children. We got a doctor to come with us, and we gathered school equipment for children. And then we started hiking in these super remote areas over this month.
Wow.
And it's on very high altitude. So it actually has 50% failure rate due to altitude sickness.
Yeah.
And even half of our team also had to go down, but I was the only one who wasn't Bhutanese. And just being without phone connection for a month, being with people, getting to know them, hearing their stories, their perspectives, being so close to nature in all type of weather, and the encounters we had with people along the way, it was just amazing. And also it taught me that, like us Westerners, we always try to help and we don't think about how we interfere with local ecosystems. So I felt quite stupid, I remember, because we brought crayons And we hadn't considered the fact that they don't have paper to write on. And also, when we bring a doctor to their community, if they get sick, will they stay around and wait for a new doctor to come? Are we actually interfering in a good way or a bad way? And these are life lessons that I never thought of before. But just being in these areas, being with the people, and just, that was a really, really powerful experience. And I remember managing to go through those. I think it's 24 days that we spent, and getting down from the mountains after having done that. And it's hard, like altitude is really hard over such a long time. And then I remember, as a woman, you never really think about days, or you don't have days where you're proud of your body. But I remember, oh my God, I managed to bring myself across those mountain passes, spend 1 month on high altitude in all sorts of weather, come down, and, I'm feeling great, better than ever.
Incredible.
And that's the first time I reflected on the fact that I felt proud of my body for just taking me through that.
Incredible.
Yeah. It's like you feel good.
I'm sure that there are so many aspects of even just that 1 month, and you were there you spent 3 years in that country, it's tough to put into words.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And, I was very fortunate, because what I started doing when I was there was looking at how can we develop more experiences for guests? How can we engage guests more in the local communities? And I started doing this for one lodge that I worked at, because Amman had 5 lodges and still have 5 lodges in the country. And then when we started doing this and doing write-ups, inviting guests to come with us for different types of experiences, which could be like tubing down the river, or having lunch at the local family's house, or different hikes to different temples. Then I was lucky, and they sent me around to all the 5 lodges to do that. So I was paid to just explore and walk in the mountains, for weeks and months.
Oh, goodness. That sounds incredible.
And then I also got to take part together with HR in creating training programs for all the employees. I'd worked with development of quality assurance standards and training programs in Dubai. So to take those programs with me, to adapt them to a Bhutanese audience, and then work on that and get feedback from every single group of supervisors we went through and did supervisor training, trained the trainer. And I remember one feedback we always got, me and the HR manager, Karma Thinley was her name, was that we should be more funny. We weren't funny enough. And then we tried, really hard. Yeah, we tried to be more funny, tried to use more humor, and just seeing the change in response when we made like a conscious effort to be more funny. It's really interesting. Like, how do people learn? What do they want?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's about just having fun while you do it, and it makes people remember. They gets them engaged. So I have thousands of life lessons like this, I think, from Bhutan.
Do you keep in touch with anybody from there?
I do. A couple that I still keep in touch with regularly, and then some sporadically.
Have you been back since your experience?
I'm not sure if I do want to go back, because I'm scared that it will have changed. But maybe one day I will.
Yeah, it sounds to me like a lot of this, and I guess your experience in Dubai as well, just the foundation for everything you're doing today in many ways, philosophically and structurally, logistically, with the company and all of that, because there's an underlying philosophy to companies. Of course, there's company culture and all these things, but I mean, the bigger a company gets, in some cases, I guess, the further away you can get from that. But especially with travel, I feel it's the things you believe philosophically are infused into the business, even though you might look at a business and look at the systems and processes and all of the sort of technical aspects of a business like you're running. But there's the philosophical side that you get from where you growing up here and your experiences abroad that can't help but infuse itself into your business, which is essentially an ever-changing piece of art in some ways.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think like in Bhutan, the whole concept we had with Amman was that guests would come, they would get their own guide and driver, and then they would venture out on a journey of different length to visit 2, 3, 4, or 5 of the lodges. And the lodges were placed in valleys that had different things to offer, and they were quite diverse because the altitude is quite different depending on where you are in the country. And then every guest would have a different reason. It was very intentional. When someone comes to Bhutan, you know what you want. It could be for the more than 200 different types of rhododendron that people wanted to see. It could be Buddhism. It could be the nature, trekking. But you're quite, determined. You know what you want when you come to Bhutan, normally. And I think for us now, with the concept we're doing with Up Norway, the whole idea was that we don't have to own the lodges to do a concept like that, to create an Aman Kura, Aman journey. Kura means journey in Sanskrit. We can create our own Up Norway journey, where we, because we know Norway and the people who are the hosts of our guests so well, we can pick out and quality assure the ones we like the most. And then we'll get to know the guests, we'll get to know their interests, their preferences, and based on that, we'll know who to match them with. And then we'll curate a Kura, a journey, for each and every guest who travels with us. So the concept is the same, but it's with the Up Norway touch in a way.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into the hidden parts.
Yeah.
For sure. Was Spain then the thing that really hooked you on travel? Was that the travel bug, getting bit by the travel bug? Because after your trip to Spain with your...
I think it was Australia.
Okay.
I've always wanted...
You were off and running then. After
Yeah.
that. Just like, this is what I'm going to be involved with.
Yeah, because I think I felt so fortunate being in Australia as a Rotary exchange student. Their program is that you're put with 5 different host families rather than one, because
cool.
The host families are volunteers. They're members of the Rotary Club. So rather than getting stuck with the student for 12 months, they get stuck for 3 months.
Yeah.
And just being so close to 5 families who welcome me in like their own daughter, and just understanding families from the inside, that was completely new to me. And it just made me get this huge interest and appreciation for people. And that's something that I really, really learned through travel, that the perspectives you get from travel, spending time with people in different cultures, different destinations, that's what matters to me. That's what I believe is valuable. And I think I'd rather be rich on perspectives than anything else. And to be able to create a business concept out of that, where we can give that to someone else, share the values of our favorite people in Norway with those who come to us. That's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, travel gives an opportunity to do that. And I love that.
You've seen some amazing places around the world. You've had all these incredible experiences. Why did you come back to Norway? Why didn't you just keep traveling? What brought you back to Norway?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes I thought about just staying, because when you start working with Aman, you can live a life where you just sort of go from Aman to Aman around the world.
Sure.
And act as
or
the
other
host.
Organizations,
Yeah, or other organizations. And I think that would also be a good life. But I came back because I am Norwegian. I feel Norwegian. I appreciate very many things about Norwegian culture. And most of all, my friends and my family is here.
Yeah.
And to be able to spend time with them is really important to me. And also, for me, when I was going to make a career for myself in travel, then looking at the values that Norwegian society has as a nation, as a country, I think there's a lot that we have achieved that we can build upon and try to sort of bring out to the world as well. We have developed huge wealth from oil, and with that comes a big responsibility that we should take and share with the world. Even though we found oil here, it doesn't mean that we should keep it all to ourselves and make sure only Norwegians benefit. So how can we now use the richness that we have used to put systems, processes in place that have taken us to a position where now quite high up on both achievements on the UN sustainability goals. We're high up on the World Happiness Index. Okay, so how can we sort of share that with the world, and how can we bring people here that we can learn even more from? So I think, like, I am Norwegian, I feel Norwegian, I love Norway, and I'd like to sort of use that as a starting point to create journeys.
I want to talk about some of those Norwegian concepts in a second. I think that's one of the most enriching parts of travel after the journey, is this idea that you get to curate some of the things you love from other cultures and perhaps incorporate them into your own life, whether it's an actual practice like taking a fika like they do in Sweden or something like that, and just being like, oh, that's a really cool concept. I want to take that, back home with me. Or if it's just something that impacts your perspectives, as you mentioned, I think that's a wonderful thing. So being able to take some of those Norwegian concepts that I've grown to not only learn about, but to love and embrace, and be able to export them, if you will, whether it's through an experience on the ground or through a podcast like this, where we can just share some of the concepts and give some people some things to think about.
And I think what you mentioned there, Jason, is what we try to do, because like you talked about earlier, like philosophy and values. And if we take that and talk about transformation, for example, what is transformation? It sounds like people can get freaked out by the fact that you're going on a transformational journey, but transformation is about change to the better. It is about picking up something from a country you go to visit, something you like, and then taking it home, changing behavior a little bit to the better for yourself, for others, for the environment around you. And it's something you implement in your life that's good as a result of travel. And that's what we try to do with our journeys. We want to enrich, we want to inspire. And that's what it's all about.
Let's talk about some Norwegian concepts I find inspiring.
Yes.
And I thought this would be a good opportunity to get the explanation from a real Norwegian. Although I am a citizen now,
congratulations.
That doesn't mean that I can explain these concepts fully, because I didn't grow up with them. So there's a different level
perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're here, so we can talk about it. The first one I wanted to discuss and get your perspective on was coined by the Norwegian poet Henrik Ibsen in 1871. Friluftsliv.
Yes.
Can you talk about friluftsliv and maybe give some people an idea of what it is and why it's something to perhaps think about or consider in incorporating into their own lives?
Yeah, sure. So friluftsliv, what does it mean? It means directly translated free air life. So it's all about being and living outside. And we also have another expression called ut på tur, out on a hike or out and about. And that's what we do in our friluftsliv. We go out and we spend time outside. And it could be just taking what we want for dinner, going outside and cooking it on the fire. It can be just deciding that let's bring a tent and go out and sleep in the forest tonight. It could be choosing to do a hiking holiday, or it can just be like after work, get out, spend time outside rather than being inside on the sofa. And the one thing that I have noticed is that when guests come to Norway, they do notice that our air is quite clean, it's quite fresh, and nature is always very close, even if you're in our capital city, Oslo. It's very easy to get out in nature, to enjoy friluftsliv. And we also have our own trekking associations called DNT, the Norwegian Trekking Association. They own and they run cabins. Some of them are fully serviced, some are like self-serviced, and some of them are unserviced. But for very little money, they give Norwegians access to use those cabins all over the country, and they have marked trails all over the country, and they do things for kids. So they try to engage Norwegians and visitors in spending time outside. And I think a really interesting development when it comes to the cabins run by the Norwegian Trekking Association is that they are becoming really architecturally interesting as well. They're spectacular, some of them now, that pop up. So they give people, you don't have to be rich to get access to friluftsliv. Anyone has access to it when they're in Norway. And it's all about just getting out and enjoy it.
And at home, if you're listening, maybe that's a call to action. Get out and enjoy whatever quality
free air life
today. The free air life. Love that. The design here is insane. You mentioned the cabins and the architecture, and I hate to hate on my home country, but go back sometimes and you see things that are well designed and it gets better. But I mean, here it feels like it don't seem like they cut corners very often just to get something up. It seems like there's always some thought around it. It's not that there aren't ugly buildings or things like that, but generally speaking, design is a huge part of this culture. I don't even know if you notice it anymore, if you're just kind of used to the Scandinavian design, but I kind of walk around like everything's so incredibly designed.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you do have some who try to cut corners, but I think that people now crave good design.
They take pride in it.
Yeah, and I think the concepts, the projects that do have good designs are winning at the moment. So whereas we've been a country dominated by very standard design, at least when it comes to the Scandinavian hotel chains, they're getting competition. This is changing. People want design. They want functionality. They want a thought behind how something is produced, where the materials come from. Is it handcraft? Is it machine produced? High quality, low quality? People care now and they notice. And I like that. And a lot has happened over the last 10 years. And I think we've just started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful aspect of traveling, just having your eyes opened to, for example, new design concepts or just being inspired in that way. I think when you see the attention to detail that somebody's put into something and it's just new to you. I don't know any other way to say it other than your eyes feel a bit extra open when you're traveling, which is a shame because they should be extra open all the time at home, but we get into our routines and it's not always easy to walk around with those wide open eyes. But when I do, even at home, well, my home's here, so maybe it's a bit different, but it's always gratifying. I always get that extra feeling of like that travel feeling at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you've noticed, like, why do we like the design details? And I think a lot of it is about bringing nature in. Yeah. Being outside, inside. Huge window surfaces, a lot of wooden and other natural materials, and more simplistic. It's not supposed to be very extravagant or very materialistic, but more subtle and down to earth, and then give you easy access to nature and good light.
You mentioned utputtur, aldrisur.
Yes.
The other part of that. If you're outside on tour, then you shouldn't be grumpy, essentially.
No, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of tied in with friluftsliv, right? And du finnes ikke dårlig vær, bare dårlig klær. There's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing.
That's right.
It means you get out in all types of weather, right? At first, it was weird to see all the babies sleeping outside in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
They're in sleeping bags and stuff, just so everybody's listening. They're not just throwing their babies out on the sidewalk to sleep. But it's not something you see back in the States.
No.
Babies taking their naps outside.
We believe in fresh air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up with the påskekrim?
Påskekrim. So,
you want to explain what that is?
Sure. So påske is Easter and krim is crime. So this is our peak season for crime.
Dark, crime, murder, all the stuff.
Books, series, movies.
Do you like it?
Everything. I love it.
You do?
Horror movies and psychological thrillers are my favorite categories.
Because Easter here is its own extended holiday. It's usually a week free that seems like everybody in the country has that week free. And they spend it eating hot dogs. Yeah,
candy, chocolate.
Getting outside and watching murder shows.
Yeah, skiing in the day, murder shows in the evening. We love that.
Does that sound like the perfect day for you?
Absolutely. I'd love some more days like that, actually. Yeah.
We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. If you travel a lot for work or for fun, you need a credit card that will reward you for every flight and every hotel. Travel lovers, meet the U.S. Bank Altitude Connect Visa Signature Card. With this credit card, you'll get 4 times points on travel, including gas and EV charging stations, and 5 times points on prepaid hotels and car rentals when you book directly through the Altitude Rewards Center. And no matter where in the world you are, you'll get 2 times points on groceries, dining, and streaming with a $30 annual credit for streaming services too. Visit usbank.com/altitudeconnect to apply and learn how you can earn 50,000 bonus points. You deserve a credit card with more and more travel rewards. Apply to become an Altitude Connect card holder at usbank.com/altitudeconnect. Limited time offer. The creditor and issuer of this card is U.S. Bank National Association, pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc. Some restrictions may apply. Now let's get back to the show. Do you want to talk about fredagstaco?
Yeah, fredagstaco is not it's not part of my culture or my life, but this is because Norway has a lot of TV programs suitable for families shown on Friday nights. Yeah. It's been the evening of the week where families have a tradition of eating taco, Norwegian style, or pizza. But it's all about, if you say fredagstaco, everyone knows it's Friday. It's taco in front of the TV and just watching the programs, the talk show programs that are sent on.
Okay, I didn't realize that the TV part was a part of the thing, but I do know it's all about the box tacos.
Yeah.
No fancy tacos.
No.
Just the box with the spices and the
That's
things.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we do our fredagstacos on like Wednesday or something.
Wow, that's cheating.
I know. I'm a bad Norwegian.
Yeah.
You mentioned the hyttekultur, the cabin culture. Why is that such a big part of Norway?
Traditionally, most or Norwegian families, they will have access to some type of cabin. And a cabin was the second house that we had out somewhere in the countryside in a more remote destination. Sometimes you also have støl, which is the places where people lived in summer to take care of all the animals that were grazing somewhere in the mountains. And these have now been converted into simple cabins. And of course, as people's wealth has grown, people have built more cabins in remote destinations. If we are to look at this from a more sort of not so positive perspective, I think Norway is building way too many cabins. And the material use and the way we're just sort of building cabins in areas that have been nature, I don't think that's good development. And I hope it stops, because I think we have enough cabins in this country now to keep this culture alive.
Yeah, it seems like culturally there's this... This might be extreme, but it's almost like there's a God-given right that
everyone should have a cabin.
Yeah. We don't have a cabin, but it would be fun to have a cabin.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have a cabin.
Yeah.
But I see your point. Yeah, you're getting the access to nature and all the values that we already discussed, but at what cost?
Exactly. And I think we have enough, and there are old cabins that can be renovated, cabins can be shared. And I'm all for those type of concepts rather than having every Norwegian with access to a cabin and it's empty most of the year. It seems so wasted.
It does seem like that. My mother-in-law, where she lives, there's a cabin area right up above her house.
Yeah.
And of course it's full during the peak times of New Year's Eve, let's say, or Easter, when people are watching their murder and going skiing. But a lot of times it's just nobody there.
Yeah.
I'm like, give me the keys to those cabins.
Exactly.
Let me stay there.
Yeah. My dad has, like the cabin in our family is my dad's. Yeah. And they actually share that cabin, which is a small old fisherman's cabin. And they share it with another couple.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. So it is used a lot. And they just decide on which weeks they're going to be there. They try to use it all parts of the year and every season. And it's just very simple. And when we go there, it's all about, again, friluftsliv, being outside. And then we just go in for meals if it rains. Other than that, we're just outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very simple life. Good life.
It is the utpålandet.
Yeah. Playing cards.
The lifestyle of the countryside and the nature. Yeah.
Fishing.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes.
It's the best way. It's mosquitoes, MIGs. The ones that are where my wife is from, they're awful. I mean, there's sometimes you go outside in August and it's you literally walk outside and there are just black dots all over your face within 12 seconds.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Well, luckily there are machines you can get now to keep them away. And one Sami, like the Samis are our native people, he told me, because up in the north it's quite bad.
Yeah.
He told me that the trick was to, at the start of the season, when the mosquitoes start coming, you take off your t-shirt and then you just put your arms up and then you stand, you let them bite you and bite you and bite you.
Really?
And then you suffer for a few days. And after that, you're sort of cleared. for the season.
Really?
That's what he said.
That's amazing. I want to say I'm going to try that, but I don't know.
No, I don't think I'll try, so we'll never know if it really works.
That is, I love the visual on that.
Yeah.
Somebody standing there with their arms up. The Syden.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that.
Syden. So for us, until I was like a teenager, I thought that Syden was the country. But we talk about...
Kind of is in a way.
Yeah, we talk about, like when we say go to Syden, it's because Norway is so far north. Syd is south.
Yeah.
So whenever we go from Norway, it's all about going south to Syden, to the south.
Can be anywhere in the south.
Can be anywhere.
It's a general direction.
Yeah. And that's where we all dream about going in November.
Yes, because of the cold and the dark.
Yeah, well, we have to say that this November has not been very cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I've spent several amazing days outside, just running in the forest and just appreciating the season.
Yeah,
Because
that's great.
Yeah,
That's a great attitude.
Yeah, and autumn is also the time where you really get your appetite up because there's so much good food to eat, like mushrooms, like game, it's the hunting season, and it's just... yeah, very different from the summer season. Ever-changing light, northern lights start coming now. I don't know if you knew, but the northern lights activity now is quite high and predicted to continue to grow until 2025.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so it's really good time to come now until 2025 if you want to see the magical northern lights.
I wonder if that's one of the spots on your list. We're going to find out here in a second. Do you think that Norwegians... I would say the pandemic that we went through offered an opportunity for people to reappreciate their backyard. And I'm wondering if that's just an idea or if you've seen that in reality working in travel here. Has there been an increase in tourism in Norway with Norwegians traveling and doing more of that instead of going to Syden or some of these other places they've traditionally gone to escape the weather here?
Absolutely. Of course, Norwegians, we didn't have a lot of choice. When the borders closed, they closed. So yes,
sure,
many Norwegians did travel and rediscover their own country. And what we saw, like our concept is made for international travelers. But what we saw was that Norwegians also came to us, and Norwegians generally have an attitude where they believe they know best and they can manage better on their own. So to buy a curated travel service in their own country was not something that seemed logical to many. But when we convinced people to try us once, they came again and again. So now we do actually have a good Norwegian clientele of people who rediscover Norway through us.
Nice.
So that's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, speaking of discovering Norway,
yes,
we should get into some of these hidden gem spots. And as I mentioned, this is what you do.
Yes.
I mean, you've been doing this for how long?
Well, we started in 2016.
Yeah, okay. So many years, and you've gone to a lot of places all around here, and you have also gone to the places that I'm sure that are crowded, and you have the queues going up the hiking trails and things like that.
Yep.
And it's all well and good to see some of those iconic places, but we wanted to give people listening some bucket list items, perhaps, some food for thought if they're going to come to Norway. What are some places they should consider going?
Yeah. I think before we go into the places to go, I think it's also worth touching upon what you're saying, like when it comes to when you go, because to avoid crowds, like if you think about traveling off season, not necessarily in the peak periods, you can get so much more if you're after an authentic experience. You can go to those places that are iconic, that are well known. Like, for example, last week we had one of our favorite guests. He's traveled with us the longest. He took his family and went to the Pulpit Rock.
Yeah.
And it rained that day. But we had arranged for him to have a private guide. The guide brought his dog. We made sure they all had the right clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Ut på tur, aldri sur.
Yeah.
Finns ikke dårlig vær, bare dårlig klær. And all of this. And after their hike, we also arranged for them to be picked up in a private boat. And they did a little cruise. They got to stay warm. They got refreshments. But what he said is that, even though it rained for the full length of that hike, we had the Pulpit Rock all to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we'll never get again. So we loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think also now we see that more people are willing to travel outside of the peak summer months, July, August, and the peak winter months. And I think that gives a lot of value. So September for us this year was amazing. And the guest feedback we had from those who traveled in September was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Northern lights, beautiful autumn foliage, and just people who had time, to talk to them, to show them around, to immerse them in local culture. So I think the time to travel is also something to consider when you do think of what type of experience you want. Do you want to be a traveler, a local, to get immersed, or do you want to be a tourist?
Yeah, that's great. And you can take that concept of there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. Get the right clothing, and you can expand this out to anywhere in the world, right?
Absolutely.
If you're just willing to kind of be in that and a part of that and make it part of the travel experience and know that there are benefits to that
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now where do you want to start, Jason?
Well, that's your call. This is your country.
Yeah.
I'm just living in it. So we have 7 off the beaten path destinations here. I would love for you to just, pick one and let's get it rolling and hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, sure. Let's start with Veiholmen.
Okay.
Veiholmen is what we refer to as the Norwegian Maldives.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and why, you might think. And why is because this is our little island paradise. Off the west coast of a bigger island called Smøla, you have small islets, beautiful archipelago where the light is absolutely incredible. And we have access to a few villas here that are owned and run by some amazing hosts. And just coming out here, it's very hard to explain, and it's not heavily marketed. It doesn't have a lot of commercial experiences. But coming out here, it's all about just being and enjoying the light, enjoying the natural elements. And for me personally, to kayak in this area, oh my God.
Really?
Yeah. Just
iconic.
Because you can almost, you can paddle out to where the big ocean breaks. So you can see the huge waves and just see that immense power of the ocean and still be quite safe in calm waters. But still you need to be in control because there's current and it's just, absolutely spectacular. And there's some nice architecturally made bird sheds that you can sort of venture to, light up a fire, get some lunch, a hot beverage, and just, enjoy life.
Sounds incredible. I'm always so interested in the people that run these places in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's just their spot.
Yeah.
They have small accommodations or hotel, but they're all different. But these isolated areas where a family or an individual runs a business like this, and it's always an interesting person. To me, because there usually big periods of time where they don't see anybody. In a lot of ways, it's such a small place, but then they have tourists come in. I don't know. You must meet a lot of characters at some of these.
That's the best part of this. That's the best part of it. And people, they don't always think about the fact that it's people that really make their experiences.
For sure.
So you don't search out the destination for the people you'll encounter, but that's what creates the biggest impression.
Yeah. So memorable, and of course the nature, but the people you encounter is it's huge.
Yeah.
All right, give us another one.
We'll take Ramnereire.
Ramnereire.
It means the eagle's nests.
Okay.
This is one of those new, beautiful, small cabins made for ideally 2 people. It took 7 years to build or carve out. So this is like old Norse Viking wood carvings that you'll also find in our stave churches, built by 2 brothers with their partners and the father. And it's just their life project over 7 years in this spectacular location overlooking the Sognefjord. And it's for someone to go there and just be in the nature, be one with nature, just practice the art of doing absolutely nothing, and then enjoy the craft work around you And then again, being with these amazing hosts, fully tattooed, long hair, look like true Norse Vikings who can introduce you to local history, arrange for you to go to the local stave church, hear stories from the past, learn about Viking culture. And then the sister in this family, she is a chef, so she can come and prepare this amazing meal for you while you're in your own Viking feel eagle nest house in the woods overlooking the fjord, and just create this spectacular experience.
I find it so inspiring when people are able to dedicate so many years of their life to one particular thing.
Yeah. Just for
because
fun.
I'm all over the place. I feel like it's so admirable to me.
Yeah, and they had to build their own machine to create these wood carvings. So they're just super intellectual, dedicated, fun people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Practicing the art of doing nothing is kind of hard nowadays.
It is.
Isn't it?
It's an art.
It is an art. How do you do it?
Personally?
Yeah.
It's really hard for me, actually. I am quite bad at it. But I've become better. So I force myself to leave my computer at the office. And then I practice saying no to things. And sometimes I'll go for a walk or a run. And for me, that's sort of practicing the art of doing nothing. Cycling. If you're on a road bike, I find myself not being able to be on a mobile, and you have to sort of focus, but still you can be with your own thoughts. You could be social, but still you're sort of doing something alone. And also, back to what you said about påskekrim, if I watch a horror movie, I find that I'm fully 100% engaged in that story, and I don't think about anything else. So for me, that's sort of the art of doing nothing.
One horror movie everybody must see.
Yes.
Which one?
I think my favorite psychological thriller is Silence of the Lambs.
Okay.
So I think just the plot of that story is so engaging and so brilliant that it really grabs your attention and keeps it.
You know what's funny? I was reading this book to my son last night. It's a
Silence of the Lambs?
No. That's funny. A children's story.
Yeah.
Hannibal Lecter, a children's story. There is a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer book, and they don't care whatever time of year it is. I could read it any time of year. And one of the reindeers is named Clarice.
Yeah.
And so every time I read the book, they don't know. It's my own joke to myself. I was like, and Rudolph met with Clarice.
Ooh. Yeah.
And I try to say it like the Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have fun with it anyway.
That's important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Give us another one.
Yes. I think we should take Mollyshock. So Mollyshock is a mountain lodge originally built for people who used to hunt grouse. And it is in the Finnmark Plains in the very far north of Norway. If you drive between Alta and Karasjok. Karasjok is the seat of our Sami people. And this lodge is reachable by snowmobile, dog sledding, skiing. There's no road going all the way up there in winter, and in summer you can go with a small plane. And just coming here is like going back to simple life. Like getting there is an experience, being there is an experience. It's cold, so you get to wear clothing that the Sami people wear, who are used to being outside in like minus 30 degrees, and a lot of it is made from reindeer skin. And you just see the technicality of this gear. It's like natural, but it's so high tech, and that's fun to stay warm and comfortable when it's minus 30. And then you go ice fishing, and you see like the small instruments that they've made up to get that amazing fish, even though it is minus 30. And just being outside, the light, the northern lights, sauna, maybe having a dip in the freezing cold water. And just being there with people, gathering inside in front of the fire. There's good atmosphere. No one's on their phones. You can read a book if you want, or you can just enjoy a good meal, get the fish, cook it, watch the hosts prepare it in the kitchen. It's just simple pleasures in life. And just knowing that you can relax because you're not going anywhere that evening. You're just stuck where you are in a nice way.
Can you talk about your experience with the Sami culture?
Yes. I've become very, very curious and interested in Sami culture over the last few years. I remember when I was in Australia, when I was younger, we used to hear about the Australians and how they had sort of not been very nice to the Aborigines, and they've taken Uluru away from them, Ayers Rock. And then it's only when I grew older that we learned that Norwegians have also not been so nice to the Sami people who were here, you know, in the north before they came. We've taken their land and we've made rules that they had to follow. And when we look at it, the Samis have always done everything in their power to preserve nature, land. And I think they've always had this special connection to nature, their own way of looking at time, their own way of being with animals, the reindeer. And I think we have so much to learn from the knowledge that they have gained from living so close to nature, being so in touch with all the elements. And I think what the modern person seeks is to find that connection, to get back into that type of lifestyle. So I think now we are learning more about the Samis, but they have a very strong culture. They have a lot of mysticism. They have very many similarities to other native peoples in the world. And absolutely a big part of the Norwegian experience.
Thanks for that. Why do we have to travel so far sometimes to experience the simple life? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that it's all about the wheel of life, where when you live your everyday life, it's easy, I think, to get into a habit, and travel breaks that habit.
Yeah.
So maybe you're able to benefit from what you've learned and breaking that habit for the first few weeks or so when you get back home. But I think it's a conscious effort to try to change for the long run.
Yeah.
But I think that if you're going to do that, then travel is the way to get started. New perspectives, and just, I think, sleep. Get 8 hours of sleep, and then at least have the mind power available to work on these things you want to work on but never get around to do.
Yeah. Travel can't help but interrupt the pattern of routine.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's a fun way to do it too.
Yeah.
All right, give us another one here. How about the treetop cabins?
Yeah. Again, if we go back to Kongsvinger, where I'm from, we are surrounded by another forest called Finnskogen. Finn comes from Finnish. So there were a lot of Finns who emigrated to this area historically. And Finnskogen is very rich in, of course, forest, also wildlife. And some of our friends have created 2 beautiful cabins on stilts made from steel with a lot of woodwork. And they have all modern facilities and overlook the forest in an area where there are rare species of owl, for example. On a good day, you could hear a wolf, even though you very rarely see them. And this is also one of those beautiful small cabins that you can rent, get out to. Also has a feel of luxury to it. You could book a massage, you can book horse and sled, you can book your own guide to go fishing. There's really good lake fishing in this area. And you can also just order local food, have it delivered to your house, and just stay here and just be. Another one of our favorites. We took our whole team there, actually.
Really?
To find some inspiration.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you find some?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We've got a couple more left.
Yeah. I think let's
3
go.
more, maybe.
Yeah, we can go south.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite is a manor called Bhutan. It used to be a salmon lodge. Now they've opened it as a boutique hotel. So it's still a salmon lodge, but also a boutique hotel. So you don't have to be a salmon fisherman to be there. And this is a beautiful place by the river. Again, wonderful hosts and an amazing kitchen. And I took a group of foodies here earlier this autumn, and oh my God, we spent time with the chef in the garden. We harvested our own artichokes, our own berries, all different things, vegetables that we use for our dinner. We prepared the dinner together with the chef. And before that, we had also visited a local farm, which was a shellfish farm, where we got to sort of walk in the water, low tide, pick our own oysters, see how they clean them, see how they clean the scallops, just eat directly from where we were, and just see how this beautiful family who run this farm also, you know, they prepare their own bread, they have their own cows, they have their own organic vegetables, their own fruit trees, they make jams. And we were supposed to go back for a white tablecloth lunch, but everyone, they just wanted to stay. So we just stay there the whole day and then return to Bhutan in the evening. And just seeing how these beautiful places complement each other, being in one location and having access to all these different farm experiences, which is a big part of the journeys we sell, because Norway has a lot of small, very passionate farms, farmers and farms. So yeah, that's definitely another favorite.
Farm to table as a trend, if you want to call it that, I'm using air quotes, has been a big thing, of course, in the States. And I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that it's not really a trend here because it's just the way it's been. A lot of local food being consumed locally. Of course, you can go to the store and get brand names and stuff like that. But even many years ago, going up to my in-laws, and we would be eating moose from the area or tutubar, the berries that were picked in the forest there. And it feels like that's just been a Norwegian tradition to have the local food be so local. Yeah. Hyper local in many ways.
It's part of a long story, actually, because back in the 70s, 80s, when I was young, our farming was quite industrialized. Yeah. Especially when it came to, if you look at cheese production as an example. But then Norwegian agriculture has specifically targeted now, how are we going to get more diversity into what we produce? And they've subsidized farmers so that they are able to run quite small farms, run them ecologically, biodynamically, and create really high quality produce. So what is the result? The result is higher quality, more diversity. And Norway has, over the last 8 years, we won the World Cheese Awards 2 times.
Oh, really? Okay.
The world's best cheeses. And now we're doing the World Cheese Awards are being hosted in Trondheim next autumn.
Oh, are you going?
Of course.
Really?
I wouldn't want to miss it.
I want to try some good cheeses.
Yeah, they're delicious. Everywhere in this country.
Where can I get the world's best cheese?
Well, you can get it at Mathallen, for example, here in Oslo.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so you have Kraftkar, for example, which is a blue cheese, the first one that won, produced in Nordmøre. Yeah, so there's a lot to choose from. Yeah.
You're giving me a lot to add to my list of things I want to do.
Yeah. We have a couple. Yeah, you're welcome. We have a couple left. There's one I want to mention, which is probably Norway's most luxurious little treat. Okay. And it's a lodge where it's not possible to book just a room. You buy out the whole lodge, and it's called Åmot. Okay. It's in a small village in western Norway called Bygstad. And it's run by a beautiful couple and their dog, Steinar and Yngve. And one thing is the facilities, this beautiful historical farm renovated into a very luxurious boutique hotel. But it's the experience that they create together with their network of amazing locals. So the local doctor, he's also the Angus farmer, and he's the friendly, handsome neighbor who comes by to immerse you into local life. They have another set of neighbors who run the...
It sounds surreal.
Yeah, they have the boat. They take you to their boat house in a private fjord, and it's kind of private because there's a big bridge that blocks cruise ships from entering through this fjord because they can't get under the bridge. Okay. So very little traffic.
Was that intentionally? They put the bridge up? Then
I'm not sure.
It's pretty convenient now.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because United World College, I think it is based at the bottom of this fjord.
Really?
So you have students from all over the world coming in here to study, and they are in this idyllic, picture-perfect little fjord village in the middle of nowhere in Norway. So this is absolutely...
Åmot. Is that the name of the town?
No, Åmot is the name of the farm.
Yeah, okay.
And guests who come here, they can expect Michelin-starred food prepared by Bare, which is a Michelin-starred restaurant in Bergen. They can expect a private, intimate mini concert by artists. They can expect amazing massages, yoga lessons, and not to mention some of Norway's best guides. Go out, enjoy friluftsliv. Maybe challenge yourself, but then know that you have someone that will always be there to make sure you're safe and to give you the best of that outside experience or outdoor experience.
Your job's not too bad, is it?
This is all hard work.
I know it is, but there are perks.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. We're doing this because we want to.
Yes.
Yeah. Do we have one left on my list?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I think that we can go back actually to what we originally talked about, which is the plus. I think that's definitely a off the beaten path spot worth including in a visit to Norway now. So the plus based in Magnor Forest, definitely an attraction worth including on a trip to Norway because there's so much inspiration to take from it. And you can actually venture to the roof of that factory and there's a huge slide going down all the way into the forest. So it's also supposed to be playful.
Cool.
So even if you're an adult, if you have a family with you, if you're there with your colleagues, it's a place to include.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What has been one of your favorite experiences, if you just got reaction of all the things you've gotten to do around Norway through your company and just personally, what?
I think that when we talk about Åmot, I think the trip that my colleague Henriette and I had to Åmot when we were introduced to that experience was just amazing. It was during COVID and just getting to experience what guests experience, being a guest in such amazing surroundings was just, I felt so pampered and lucky and fortunate. Yeah, truly, truly wonderful. And I also think one of the best experiences for me has been, here's another destination for you, but the Varanger Peninsula in northern Norway, where you have these beautiful guest houses. One of them is Kongsfjord in spectacular locations. Like Lofoten is spectacular, but if you go there in July, it's quite full. But if you go to this place, it's not crowded at all. And it's like if people knew how beautiful it was, they would be there, but they don't know. And it's not very commercial, and it has so much history. It has art, it has design, architecture, these really powerful northerner people who live in this rugged, crazy environment all year with these amazing stories to tell. It has a very, very sad story related to the 1600s when women were burnt at the stake as witches. But now there's a monument telling that story, and it's a powerful story. So talk about transformational experience. We're actually looking at creating a journey where we start guests off in this area to look at women and women's rights over centuries. So in the 1600s, we were burnt on stakes as witches when men felt threatened by female power. And then we want to take people on a journey where we end up in Feie, which is an island outside of Bergen, where a group of women with more than 300 female investors are now creating what's going to be the world's best whiskey.
Incredible.
So that's the Feddy Ocean Distillery.
Yeah.
And they're doing that. And why are they doing it? They're doing it because they want to turn a trend where people have started moving away from this island community. They want to bring people back. But they're also doing it because they want to tell a story to the world. They want to send a message that more people need to own. So that's why they're only female owned. And they've invited so many investors to come in and invest. Because in Norway, I think 80% of the values on the stock exchange market is run by men. Now women, they need to get on board. And that's the story they want to tell.
Love that.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful to hear. You're such a resource of knowledge about this country. So I appreciate you taking the time to share some of your favorite spots with us. And of course, people can check you out, upnorway.com.
Absolutely.
And yeah, give people the kind of the rundown here. What do you want to let people know about Up Norway and some of the things you have coming up? And feel free to share whatever you'd like here.
Yeah, I think just to put it simply, what is Up Norway? We are a travel curator, and our goal is to really show people why Norway is one of the world's most attractive travel destinations. And we'll do that by creating wow experiences for the guests who come here. We're trying to create a luxurious experience in the way that we're not offering material luxury for all that it's worth, but we're offering people something authentic, a chance to immerse, a chance to gain new perspectives, get inspired, get enriched through meeting our favorite people and places that we have curated in an itinerary where people don't have to think about logistics. They can just look at the digital itinerary that they have access to on their phones, and then we will connect them with the best places and people as they move through the country, using both a mix of trains, public transportation, as well as private transportation to get through the fjords and the mountains and the forests and the coast.
I think it's incredible. I'm checked out a bunch of the itineraries you have, and we've gotten to hear from you today and just getting to know you a bit and more about the company and what you're running. I'm a fan, and I think it's important that you're taking people to these lesser known places, I guess, not the typical places, because that in and of itself, we need more tour operators, organizations, people in the tourism industry doing that and curating in a different way to kind of prevent against over tourism. And really overall that will give people a better, any individual travelers or people in tour groups or whatever, any travelers out there, if you're spreading people out and showing them more parts of a place, they're going to get to know a country in a different way, and perhaps have an experience that's doesn't feel as packaged, I guess, or as consumer driven in some ways. In some places you go, it's unavoidable, of course. In some places, it's a Machu Picchu is not going to, people aren't going to stop going to Machu Picchu because there are alternative treks. So I think in the tourism industry, they're doing their best to kind of manage those popular places, but we also need more places to choose from, I feel.
Yeah.
That authenticity.
Exactly. And I think a big part of what we do is also to try now to drive up the different products that Norway can offer. We do have people coming to us when they're thinking of creating new hotels, attractions. And we are seeing that a lot of new attractions will be built in Norway over the next few years. One example is the whale at Andøya Island, which will be like a visitor attraction for whales, because Andøya is the place in Norway where you can see whales all year round. And we definitely need more to show the people that come here. And there is a lot on its way. A lot is changing. But I think it's also about changing what tourism is, changing what travel is, because you can make some conscious choices and show people, okay, why should they use us rather than booking directly or going through, like you said, like a package tour where price is what matters. And we do put a lot of thought and quality into what we do. And let's say now, one of the things we've started with this year is that we don't sell any journeys shorter than 4 nights. And if we send people to either Svalbard or Finnmark, which we know are vulnerable destinations, we have a 4-night minimum. And we tell people why. And I think that awareness is also important. And daring to say no when people are trying to do something that you don't believe in. Don't sell just to sell, but sell something that benefits the local people as much as the people who come to visit. Because that's
what do you tell them? How do you explain?
Like, for example, last week we had a request for someone who wanted to snorkel with killer whales, for example. We don't sell that, and we'll tell them why, because we know it's dangerous. We don't believe that it's good for the animals, and we think it's really unsafe for people to be in freezing cold Arctic waters in a place where there are a lot of boats, where you can get, And then you're a very vulnerable person when you're out there and you get that close to wildlife. So that's something that we don't recommend, but to try to do things in a way that it doesn't hurt wildlife, it doesn't hurt nature, it's good for the locals, and it's good for the people who come there.
What is the most unusual request you've ever gotten?
That's confidential.
Come on.
That's for next time.
For next time. Are you going to leave us on a cliffhanger? Well done. Are you a professional podcaster?
Absolutely.
Thank you so very much for your time today. This was a very kushli. Can we explain what that is? We could finish off with that.
We can.
Kus?
Yeah, kus. So kus is a uniquely Norwegian concept of the feeling you get, especially this time of the year when you start spending more time inside with people you care about, or even when you're alone in front of the fire with a good book, with a glass of wine and good conversation over board games, when you go to the cabin. And it's just that appreciation of being, I guess. That's kus.
Being present, enjoying yourself or enjoying the company of others.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely when it's stormy and dark outside, then gathering inside to experience kus, then it's really koselig.
Yeah, and it's almost a way to kind of tell people to enjoy yourself as well when you're parting ways and you're on your way to a...
Ha det koselig.
Yeah. Så detta var väldigt koselig för mig.
Mig också.
And this was very nice and cozy. And thank you so much for your time. Look forward to doing another one in the future. And good luck with everything. And we'll be staying in touch.
Absolutely. More to come.
Take care.
Thank you.
There you have it. Special thanks to Torunn for stopping by the show, for sharing her story, and giving us those 7 hidden gems around Norway, adding to my ever-growing list of places that I want or need to visit. Hope you enjoyed this show. And as I mentioned at the top, if you have a minute, have a quick and exciting announcement. Don't forget, just one last reminder, upnorway.com is the website if you're looking to check out some of the itineraries she offers there. And I'm so impressed with the itineraries and the offerings through Up Norway that I've decided to partner up with her and Up Norway and Gunnar Garfors, who I mentioned at the top of the show, the first person to travel to every country in the world twice. He's actually Norwegian. He's been all over Norway, has written 3 books on travel in Norway. So we have a lot of expertise on this country. We thought, hey, maybe there's something unique we could offer. So we are offering remote work retreats to companies and themed trips for communities. So if you're somebody that works at a company that wants to do a remote work retreat, or you're in a community or some type of group theme type of thing, maybe perhaps a Zero to Travel listener trip through Norway at some point, any and all of the above, you can check it out and sign up to get more details at zerototravel.com/Norway. That's zerototravel.com/Norway. And excited to bring the remote working world to Norway. And all these people are going to all these other destinations in the world that are hotspots for nomads like Bali and, different places. You know them all, I'm sure, if you've listened to this show. But I want to bring some love to Norway here and see if we can get some companies and some organizations and some communities here to experience the nature and the creativity that can happen in some of these incredible settings in a place where you're surrounded by nature and so much charm and so many gorgeous places here. So I'm very passionate about travel in Scandinavia and in Norway specifically, and wanted to do what I could to bring more people here to experience it and to, work against the over-tourism that's happening, not only here, but around the world and in places that get overcrowded. Let's find some unique experiences that we could share where it's less people, more authentic, more local, all that good stuff. So anyway, if you're interested in any of that, you can check it out there. And that's what I got for you. I'm going to leave you with a quote to let you go and enjoy your day with this one from Lao Tzu. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Love that. enjoy your day, and I'll see you next week. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by ZeroToTravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.